I'll just inject myself with Ozempic and everything will be fine. No, my friends, that's not how it works. You can't solve all of society's problems with a single substance. That's just not possible. It's called a silent killer. Of course, it would be nice to just get one shot and live a peaceful life. But you shouldn't get your hopes up too much. Let's say a few words about this now. Using Ozempic absolutely does not mean you can eat whatever you want, anything that comes to mind or that you like. I can easily stick to this system, and as you can see, I maintain my weight. And as you know, I'm quite old, probably older than any of my listeners. And the glucose level is very high, a very high glycemic index, a rapid rise in glucose, and not this kind of craze. Have you heard what questions are asked? Really? Revolution. What revolution? This is all around Ozempic. Without reasonable and consistent physical activity, it's impossible to talk about stable and lasting weight loss. Stable, not just for a week or two. We're talking about stable weight loss and maintaining a healthy weight. Physical activity is essential. Let's say you add an injection, just one Ozempic shot, since it's so important and popular, once a day, or rather once a week. But physical activity is a must. Come up with something for yourself. For example, walking, like Nordic walking. That's what I do, which is why I speak so confidently about it. I walk with poles anywhere. I don't bother anyone with my poles, and no one bothers me. No one makes me feel awkward, although there have been attempts. I go to work, do chores, and so on, all with the assistance of these poles. Besides, at the very last moment, and this particular action isn't suitable for everyone, I carefully put on ankle and wrist weights. These are specialized sports accessories, specifically designed as weights. Right now, for example, I am even wearing 2-kilogram weights, precisely 2 kilograms on each individual leg. Women don't need this, but for men it's useful. Just don't start with 2 kilograms. In my case, I use 0.5-kilogram weights on my wrists, so they're not even noticeable. And with the poles in your hands, you walk with a wide stride, just like when you're skiing. Not slowly tapping the poles like this, but with a wide, energetic stride. There you go, a wonderful physical activity that truly doesn't require you to go to any special sports facilities or, say, expensive gyms. Although, for example, I swim well, quite decently actually. And last year, after all, I took first place in the 100-meter swim at the university. I truly understand that in my age group, swimming is really quite great for everyone who is indeed very overweight. There are absolutely no contraindications at all. Well, you'll probably swim more slowly than, say, some athletes. But it's a regular workout and extremely beneficial. Yes, you can come up with other ways to exercise too. Why do I recommend this? So that we're having a real conversation. Do you have stairs in your building? Great, then use the stairs for exercise. I've been doing this myself for a long time. We live in an old building. There are exactly 81 steps to my apartment, 81 steps. And here's my daily routine. Even if I'm not doing anything else and just sitting at the computer, which I absolutely have to do a lot, I get up and do 500 to 600 steps up and down the stairs, up and down. Plus, I also regularly and always use weights in addition. That's it. And that way, you end up with good, strong muscle tone, not flabby, weak muscles. Because as you naturally age, sarcopenia inevitably sets in and your muscles will gradually deteriorate. And this muscle deterioration isn't just an aesthetic issue. Looking at a sagging, aging body isn't pleasant. Muscles are also vital helpers for the heart. As they say, legs are the second heart. This is something you shouldn't forget, my friends. And besides that, it's also very much about the crucial work of the lymphatic system, which our conventional medical field hardly ever truly talks about. And this is something you should pay attention to as well. Perhaps you didn't initially expect this particular kind of approach, but I truly believe this comprehensive approach is absolutely necessary. Well, let's give it a try. Why not? It's quite a decent product, very close to the natural one, because it's an analog of glucagon. Moreover, it has a prolonged effect, so we can try using it. At the very least, the pharmacological data, primarily experimental so far, let's say, indicate its safety. And that's the most important thing, safety. A comprehensive perspective of cardiovascular function as well. It truly doesn't raise blood pressure, and it certainly doesn't disrupt kidney function, which is something that quite often happens at an advanced age. But a comprehensive approach like this is absolutely necessary. No laziness whatsoever. No laziness at all, because people often gain weight due to common habits like eating sweets, frequent snacking, and of course, leading a sedentary lifestyle. So please keep this in mind, dear friends. It's essential to provide your body with omega 3 fatty acids. Our daily diet is significantly 10 times deficient in essential omega 3. How can you do this? Well, naturally, omega 3 fatty acids are found in the fat of cold water fish, not just fatty fish, as you sometimes see written on the internet. Eat fatty fish. No. Only certain types of cold water fish contain beneficial omega 3 fatty acids because it's an adaptive response to low temperatures. This was demonstrated by our St. Petersburg professor Krebs. So it's very important to understand that this is an adaptation. Therefore, let's call things by their proper names. Moving on. There's the issue, for example, of obtaining such a product. They can be expensive. There's flaxseed oil, my dear friends. It is quite an incredibly inexpensive product indeed. Flaxseed oil, which used to be very common and widely used in Russia, was a staple. Well, flax was grown, it was cultivated for making linen, but the oil was always there. And with flax oil, or flax seeds, you can even use them in this particular way to compensate for the deficiency of omega 3 fatty acids. There is one important exception. This specifically concerns diabetics, but that's a completely separate topic. This point also needs to be taken into account. Also, not just for everyone who is overweight, but for anyone, no matter what their body weight is, omega 3 is essential. Omega 3s are components of membranes. They are elements that give the membrane the necessary fluidity. In addition, omega 3s are significant sources of what are called, in medicine, prostaglandins. However, that's not entirely accurate. Well, let's call them prostaglandins, substances that provide relaxation of blood vessels, dilation of blood vessels, and lowering of blood pressure. They are the ones that help prevent the buildup of atherosclerosis on the walls of blood vessels and so on. This is especially true for our country, Russia. It's a northern country, and we primarily consume dietary oils in our diet that contain a significant amount of omega-6 fatty acids. These are corn oil and sunflower oil. Well, these are the most common oils. But there is information that because of this, the incidence of heart disease here is higher than, for example, in Mediterranean countries where the Mediterranean diet is followed. You might say, but in old Russia, people also consumed these oils, didn't they? Yes, of course they did. Well, we're a northern country, and thankfully, sunflowers grow here. But olives do not. So, in Russian times, during the Tsarist era, cold water fish from the northern seas was much more easily accessible, making it a common and important part of the diet. Read Russian literature, for example, Anton Pavlovich Chekhov. There's a story called Siren. Go ahead and read it. And flaxseed oil was also very commonly used and quite prevalent back then. But then it disappeared from our lives altogether. Now it has reappeared, but people rarely talk about it. But it absolutely must be consumed, and absolutely in its cold form. No heating, no frying it. Frying is out of the question. Use it cold in salads. Plus, it is essential that you take good care of yourself. First and foremost, consider your daily intake of vitamins and minerals, specifically the water-soluble ones, every single day. Let me warn you right away. As soon as you begin taking proper vitamins and minerals, your appetite may indeed increase. This happens quite often because your metabolism becomes more active. It's actually a low-intensity metabolism that leads to excess body weight. And the fact that your metabolism becomes more intense means that burning, let's put it that way, using that kind of language, may be from the field of combustion. Oxidation of carbohydrates, fats, and so on happens more actively. So that's how we move toward, so to speak, weight loss. But once again, I warn you, yes, your appetite may increase. Sometimes people complain about this. So what? To effectively deal with this, you really don't have to reach for pastries or ice cream. You should drink 1.5 to 2 liters of water every day. Gradually, if your appetite increases, just drink some water. If it's truly unbearable, eat something neutral. Make a smoothie, say, from some fresh vegetables, truly healthy vegetables. For example, for men, it's good to include celery. It boosts potency. By the way, that's never hurt anyone. Have you heard what questions are being asked? Really? Revolution. What kind of revolution? The product has just appeared. Let's see, when the necessary information has been truly and fully accumulated, then we will discuss this important issue further again. I must say, I have a great deal of experience in this particular regard. It's like a drug that was, well, truly the very best. And suddenly, bam, they take it off. I can continue. There was a drug called reserpine for high blood pressure. Back in my youth, when we were developing Raunatin on assignment from the Ministry of Health of the USSR, back then, yes, urgently, in 3 months, we had to develop it, figure out the composition, and create the manufacturing process, the factory technology. Reserpine was all the rage. It's a product from the Rawolfia factory. It lowers blood pressure. A revolution. Where is reserpine now, dear friends? And when it started being used so quite actively, many and truly very unpleasant side effects were discovered. Why did we replace it with Raunatin, by the way? I personally took part in this process and in a completely professional capacity. And I have documents on this topic. It's the same thing here. By the way, our ancestors who did a lot of physical labor, especially in rural areas, would eat a whole loaf of bread a day, for example. Can you imagine eating a whole loaf of bread a day? And they would drink liters of kvass while working, and they didn't get fat. And why is that? Because first of all, the foods had a different content of essential micronutrients, much richer, by the way, than today. And secondly, they had a lot of physical activity. Let's remember that too. If we truly and genuinely want to maintain a healthy body weight, or so to speak, achieve and reach a healthy and optimal weight, it is indeed a very significant and substantial job. I absolutely won't keep repeating the exact same thing over and over again. So I strongly urge you to approach it in this particular way. To this, I must emphasize, as of today, a truly worthy and genuinely remarkable product. But that absolutely and unequivocally does not mean you shouldn't do anything else at all. You simply cannot just get one injection a week and then proceed to go live a completely reckless lifestyle. No, it doesn't work like that. That's it. So let's thoughtfully wrap up our comprehensive discussion of Ozempic for now on a truly good note, on a very positive and optimistic note. Certainly, it is indeed a positive note, but with a clear and thorough understanding of the real and current state of things. This approach helps us avoid getting unduly carried away by fleeting trends, passing fads, and so on, ensuring a more grounded perspective.